What's up, y'all? It's a new episode of Conversations with Samuel. I, of course, am Samuel. Some little changes starting to the set. Hope you guys see. Got some new cameras and some lighting. So it's coming together. A mic. I've always wanted to have like a mic like this. I had actually bought a lapel mic, but I always like the symbolism of an actual mic. Most people, do podcasts and they have mics, but I mean, I don't know. It's just kind of a nostalgic thing for me, I guess. A map of the world. It is a particular type of map. It is called orthographic. I'll have to look up again what the actual meaning is for that, but it's supposed to be accurate a little bit more than other maps, but it's kind of shaped oddly. If you get some time, look it up. It's very interesting. I don't quite have all the details about it, but that's why I got it. However, so it's been a minute since I've done the show. In between that time, I've had to have a couple of oral surgeries done, and so talking has been a bit of an issue. I just know that's not something I ever want to do again. I felt like the way Martin looked in that one episode when he got beat up by Tommy Hearns, like my whole face was completely numb. I mean, I looked like Buster Douglas when he lost to Riddick Bowe. I looked terrible. All this was swollen. It was a mess. I tell you, it was a mess. So I apologize. I did upgrade some things. I'm gonna be doing some different things with editing also. So I have not neglected, you know, the show, in spite of my low viewership. Um, but I know it always takes things to a little bit of time to progress, and so we're gonna keep plugging with it. Like I said when I started the show, I was gonna do a plethora of things and just wanted things on record, for posterity, so to speak, that sort of thing. As always, the elephant in the room. Hope some of you don't confuse the elephant with Republican. The elephant is just my favorite animal, always has been. It was my grandmother's favorite animal. And so now happening to be living in Alabama, I've got so many elephants. I counted the other day and I have a collection of like 27 different types of elephants. So I'm turning into one of those people, it looks like. So, well, a lot has been going on lately. We're in a war. Even though war hasn't officially been declared, there's some clarification that really needs to be had with this type of stuff. I'll start by saying that, first of all, social media has created this thing where everyone's a political analyst, everyone is a military strategist, and depending on who you like and who you don't is where you base your opinions off of, instead of in many times the actual facts. There's so many things that I come across and see. And I used to be real big into this stuff, into this political stuff, until I realized that no matter what side you're on, we're both being played. You know, I have been one of them people that looks at life as, if you have an opinion on something, make sure your opinion is rooted in research. Don't pick things that align with what you think. and it's something they call cognitive dissonance. It like, for instance, if you're having a discussion with somebody and you Google something and they Google something, you're more than likely going to pick the selection on Google that's going to align with what you think rather than maybe what the facts are. Because you have to think everything on that first page is the stuff that gets the most hits. It doesn't make it the most accurate, if that makes sense. A lot of people don't get that. Um, for instance, with this war with Iran going on, or Iran, um, here's the thing about that. Think about it. Every single president gets a war or some sort of skirmish. Okay? And every single time that happens, we say, oh, it's World War III. That always cracks me up. They do the same thing with the Antichrist. It's this guy's the Antichrist, this person's the Antichrist, and according to the Bible, you're not ever supposed to realize who the Antichrist is until it's too late, kind of thing. Um, so there's always all these labels about who's doing what and who should be what and what's going to happen. And I guess it just blows my mind to look at how us humans are so fascinated with our own potential demise. We spend so much time thinking about it. I mean, look at the movies: Deep Impact, Armageddon, Independence Day. Um, you know, there's tons of them. Cloverfield. I could go on and on about the tons of movies where mankind's very existence is always at stake, and it seems to be something we're obsessed with. And then we bring in prophecy inside of those things. We talk about prophecy and say it's supposed to happen because somebody said it was going to happen. And then it's like, for me, part of me thinks it's completely ridiculous. But then part of me says it depends on what timeline you're living in, because there was an ending for some type of something in history, if that makes sense. There was an ending for certain civilizations, and they predicted their own endings, you know, and we're constantly predicting ours. One of the things I want to interject while I'm thinking about it is I think, and I'll honestly say this: no matter what befalls us in this current modern age, no matter what happens, we are living in the absolute best time there could be to be alive on planet Earth. Um, I really truly believe that, because unlike other species, we have the ability to control our own destiny. And I just think that if our collective mindset is always set on our demise, then we're going to make it happen. It's like manifesting something into reality. You know, if you apply that to positive thought, there's no telling the limits that you can get to. If you can manifest something, I remember being in church back in July, and the pastor was telling the story about something his grandson wanted that was near and dear to him. And the pastor's mindset was, you thank God for it first, in a way. And he explained it probably a lot better than I could. But basically, whatever your beliefs are through prayer, through meditation, through focused energy, we can manifest our development under our own control type thing. And I don't think we do that enough in a positive manner. And so when we're always talking about our demise and how the world could end and World War III and all this stuff, there are other things I choose to focus on, like my family, making sure we're good and taking care of the circle that we have. And so I really, based on all of that, try to stay away from the political talk, because to me it's all a game. I did this. I researched it, and when I was doing my thing with this stuff back in Nebraska, uh, nobody paid attention. Almost a lot like now. You know, and so when I see all this stuff happening, I saw this stuff happening almost 15, 20 years ago. My last show aired in 2011. So that'd be less than 20 years ago, but you get my point. It's been a while. This immigration thing, I had immigration attorneys on my show. We were talking about this back then. The big talk was whether or not to call them illegal immigrants or undocumented. um, so we've been doing this a while. And throughout all my research, too many people take sides instead of looking at life objectively, you know, or subjectively, I would say. Everything is subjective. And then there's also a situation where maybe everybody should just mind their own damn business, and whatever someone chooses to do or chooses to be is who they are. I'm conservative in some aspects, I'm liberal in others. How do I feel about immigration? I don't think that if you're supposed to be here, you shouldn't be, because in other countries, they have laws for that. And some of those laws are very, very strict. I never saw anything wrong with the country controlling who comes within its borders. I've never seen an issue with that. And I feel like most people conflate that with racist undertones. Like, if you don't believe in or don't support illegal immigration, then that means Mexicans. And that's not the case. People have to really get out of that mindset. They have to get out of that mindset, because that's not the case for everybody. Okay? And everything can't be tied to Trump because people are Republicans or think differently. And I'm not speaking for one side or the other. I'm saying both. Even on the Democratic side, I mean, look at John Fetterman. John Fetterman out of Pennsylvania, he's a Democrat, and he's more middle of the road than any Democrat I've ever seen. You know, um, he's conservative about some things. He's liberal about others. That's okay. That's okay. I do think that our borders need to be controlled. Every other country does it. You know, I don't see what the problem is there. As far as this war, I mean, it's all for resources mainly to begin with, and control over a region. Are there things that Iran has done that has drawn the attention and the ire of the United States? Sure. I mean, they don't really like us, and there's no telling what was going to be planned. And you know what? I'm not a politician or a military strategist to know or say exactly why or justify why they went over there. But what history does tell me is that we have to get our hands on certain things. Um, and that brings me to gas prices. So, when it comes to gas prices, little shocker, the government doesn't control the price of gas prices. Um, they're owned by CEOs and things like that. But public perception affects the price. Same with the stock market. Um, if a company is doing bad in the stock market, let's say, then confidence in that company drops. So what do people do? They sell their shares. Okay? The same applies. And so when we're looking at conflicts and things like that, there's always a broader picture. Yes, there are these surface reasons that come up, and sure enough, a lot of them are true and may be true. Um, but there's always a deeper story, and too many people are taking just the most shallow point of view on everything. To the point that they can't even have a proper discussion about it. You know, like with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There were things that he said that I did not agree with, um, but that was a multifaceted young man. Um, I think that a lot of the controversial points that got him in trouble were things that were misunderstood by people who didn't understand the type of person that he was. Um, no one on any side should lose their life for speaking their mind. We can talk about conspiracies and stuff all day. I know that when I was on TikTok, if anybody followed me, I got really, really in depth in this, and to the point that I violated many community guidelines, got in trouble a lot. I no longer have a TikTok page. So, um, but whatever the case may be, you can disagree with somebody, and it should never turn to something like this. Like, I remember growing up, and people could talk about who they voted for, and if it was different, you just stopped. You just said, okay, it is what it is, and you moved on. And now it's just become so visceral. You know, you'll get into a disagreement with somebody, and they'll say, oh, you must have voted for Biden, or oh, you must have voted for Kamala, or oh, you must have voted for Trump. And it's just like, oh my gosh, y'all need to stop it. Y'all really need to stop it. It gets frustrating. And so I think that's more or less why I've chosen to pull away um, from all of that type of stuff, and why I don't really address it much, because people aren't inviting each other to dinners, family dinners, or reunions anymore because of who they voted for, you know, or because of their stance on something, or you know. But the one thing I can say that has occurred that has somewhat brought people together, even in politics or, in America, what have you, is this Epstein list. I mean, I gotta be honest. Is any of us really surprised that those people on these levels do this type of stuff? We've been hearing about it for years. It was the same with people like R. Kelly, with Diddy, and this is on whole other levels. Like this thing is huge, and I don't know what people. No one's going to jail. Okay, I hope y'all understand that. There are people that are gonna have to take responsibility for that list, but no one's going to jail. Just get it out of your head. That's how deep it is. The things that these people have done in relation to who they are in society. The one thing I will say though is that I think Epstein was not the ringleader. I think he was more of a trafficker. I think he was a piece of the puzzle to a bigger picture, which is even more terrifying. Um, he worked for somebody. That's what I think. I think he worked for somebody. Um, because he wasn't untouchable enough to be not brought under charges at some point or not interrogated or depositioned at some point. Um, he worked for the people that you'll never see in court. Okay. It was like when Chris Rock was referring to the difference between being rich and being wealthy. And he said, Shaq is rich. The person that writes Shaq's checks is wealthy. Okay, so it's like that. Um, so because it's that big, um, they had this list for years. This could have been released, but they had to put everything together. They had to get everything right. They had to put out the right list, if that makes sense. I've looked at those files. I mean, there are so many that are redacted that it's unbelievable. But it's interesting the ones that aren't. You know, those ones are kind of vague. The story's kind of vague. You can't really say anything really was going on, but at the same time, in some of them, something doesn't seem right. But geez, this is a fascinating time to be alive. And when people say fascinating, it's not always meant in a positive connotation. Fascinating just implies there's always something going on that just goes beyond what you think reality is supposed to be. That's crazy to me. I don't know. But people, y'all need to get your head out your asses and stop falling for everything. Um, I hate to agree with Trump, but the news really is fake. But it's fake on all sides. Nobody's ever going to tell you the full story on everything, and it's all about the ratings. It's all about the ratings and the masses that they can reach. And so I would just implore you all to be careful, because I've seen a lot of you post things and I'm like, that's not accurate. That's not true. And so you just feed into that, like with gas prices. Like every time there's a war, gas prices go up every single time. And yet every single time I see it, a single president is blamed. And like I said in the beginning, presidents don't own the gas companies. That's just the gas company's opportunity to make more money and price gouge us on a larger scale. That's all. Even your local stores, you know, there's plenty of gas to go around, people. The idea and the illusion of scarcity is what makes money. Okay? Think about that. I'll say it again. The idea and illusion of scarcity is what makes money. Remember there was something going on a few years ago in Florida or on the East Coast where like there was something of a shipping nature or a tanker nature that was going to cause gas to be short, and people were filling like the back of their pickup trucks lined with plastic full of gas. Unbelievable. That type of stuff. You know, you gotta watch that on both sides, and it makes it confusing because us as humans, we always feel the need to take a side. We never look at things. I won't say we won't look at things objectively, but the majority of us don't take an objective outlook. We don't, examine both sides before we make a decision. It's just whatever feels good to us, whatever aligns with what we believe, and maybe we're not always right. I can attest to that. I have not always been right. Seriously, I made a lot of mistakes, you know. But I guess I'm just a different breed of cat. Anyway, I think that's all I got for right now. I didn't want this to be too terribly long, just because I just had something on my mind when I got home from work, and just a lot of things are running through my head, and so I don't know. I don't know. I just hope all of you are safe and blessed. Love the people that are in your life. Cherish them. Thank God for every day that you get to see another day. There's so many that didn't. And hold those closest to you near and dear. With that being said, this is another episode. It's good to be back. It's good to kind of have some little changes starting with everything. So stay safe, keep that third eye open, and be blessed.